Yeah, welcome back. This is Mr. DeSico again with another edition of some information that is pretty good for your class. If you're watching this, you probably have already looked at all of the videos on the Constitution. The final one is, of course, the additions to the document. And we're going to go through the Bill of Rights and the subsequent amendments that follow. So without further ado, let's do it. The first 10 amendments to the document. So the first 10 amendments to the Constitution is called the Bill of Rights. They were adopted in 1791 after the Constitution was ratified. So they're part of the original document. They're going to be added after. That's why they're called amendments. All right. They are added because the Anti-Federalists wanted certain things written down in the Constitution. They didn't want them to be just told they had these rights. They wanted them written down. So what does the Bill of Rights do? Guarantee basic fundamental rights of the people against the government. So these are things that we have that just simply can't be taken away arbitrarily. All right. So the First Amendment, what is it? It's a kind of a grab bag. There's usually 5 things you want to remember. Okay. First Amendment guarantees freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of the press. That means you can write things in a newspaper, the right to assemble peacefully. You can get together with a group of people as long as you are peaceful, and the right to petition your government. You're able to ask the government to do something that you want them to do. All right, so these are your 5 freedoms. Know your First Amendment rights and your 5 freedoms. Second Amendment protects the right of Americans to possess and own a firearm. So Second Amendment is the right to bear arms. To bear arms meaning to have them. Not bear arms, not an animal's furry arms. Okay, this is a Second Amendment right to own a firearm. All right. Third Amendment really doesn't matter for us anymore, but it mattered for the colonial people. Okay. Third Amendment says that the government may not require people to house soldiers during peacetime. The government cannot force you to let this soldier into your home, sleep in your bed, eat your foods. All right. Once again, the king asked the colonial people to do this. Our government certainly can ask us to do this, but they cannot force that upon us. So Third Amendment, no troops in my home. All right. Fourth Amendment, it's kind of a grab bag. There's a bunch of things here, but the biggest issue here is the Fourth Amendment protects people, protects citizens from unreasonable searches and seizures. That's right. If the government wants to search your stuff, your car, your pockets, your hoodie, your home, they need 2 things. They either need probable cause or a search warrant. If they don't have probable cause or a search warrant, anything they do seize from you and take from you cannot be used in court. All right. Fifth Amendment, there's a bunch of things going on there. And you better know this term, due process. All right. What's the Fifth Amendment say? Guarantees that no one can take away, you cannot be deprived of your life, your freedoms, or your property without due process. What is due process? Right to a grand jury, no double jeopardy. They can't try it twice for the same crime. You don't have to testify against yourself. This is all your due process. These are the things that you get. You get a lawyer during trials. You get the right to a trial by jury. All good stuff that you get. Fifth Amendment. It's kind of like a grab bag amendment. There's a bunch there. 6 and 7 you can pretty much put together, right? 6 says that you have a right to trial by jury in criminal cases. 7th Amendment says that you have the right to trial by jury in civil cases. Once again, you're going to want these 12 people to decide your fate. Don't go with the judge, go with the jury, right? 8th Amendment says you can't do anything wild and crazy to you, right? No excessive bail, no excessive fines. The fine has to fit the crime, okay? Also, no cruel and unusual punishment. They can't, rip your fingernails out because you stole a candy bar, all right? So the fines or the punishment must fit the crime, and they can't do anything wild and crazy to you, all right? 9 and 10, you want to kind of slot together. You both kind of deal with the same issues here. So what's number 9 say? Any right that is not mentioned in the Constitution. So any specific right that the government doesn't have, it means it belongs to the people. The government can't come back later on and say, oh yeah, we forgot that. That's going to be ours. No. The 9th Amendment says anything that does not mention belongs to the people. And to back that up, the 10th Amendment said, hey, any powers that are not given to the national government, any power that the government doesn't have, the federal government doesn't have, belongs to the states, and therefore it also belongs to the people. And, you fly through those 10, and pretty much that's your Bill of Rights, right? There are some extending constitutional protection. So there are things besides those first 10 amendments that we've done in this country to protect you. All right, so the rights of people have been expanded by the court's decisions. So courts have decided things that have protected people in greater ways. There are other amendments, which we'll go over, that gave other protections to people. Presidents have done some things that have enabled people to be protected more. And the 14th Amendment is kind of the big one. All right, and that was created during the post-Civil War era. And it says that we are going to treat people equally in this country. It also says that the Bill of Rights applies to federal and state levels. So all of that Bill of Rights stuff applies to everybody. All right. One thing you have to know is that these rights are not absolute. You can't just do whatever you want. And here's what the courts do when they decide this stuff. The courts must balance your rights against the rights of others in society. And in a great court case, Schenck versus the United States happened during World War I. And what Charles Schenck did was he was advocating against the draft. He was basically telling people not to go fight in World War I. He got arrested, and he challenged it. He said, wait a second, I have First Amendment, man, freedom of speech. You can't do that. And the court said, no, Mr. Schenck. Your rights can be limited. They are not absolute. Your rights can be limited if you're doing something that's creating a situation where there is a clear and present danger. And we'll go over that case again when we hit the history when it comes back up during World War I. So that's not the only time you're going to see that, right? We're going to cruise through a bunch of amendments here. Some are more important than others. There's 27 in total, all right? 11th Amendment says that states have immunity from certain lawsuits. So a state may not be sued by another country, and a state may not be sued by the residents of that state. So 11 deals with states' issues. Never seen it in a test, so I'm going to keep moving. 12th Amendment, 1804, separates voting for president and vice president. What do they mean by separated it? The 12th Amendment basically said when you vote, you are voting for the president and the vice president on the same ticket. All right. 13th Amendment, you're going to want to know. All right. 13th Amendment, 1865, right at the end of the Civil War, officially gets rid of slavery. So we had to add an amendment to the Constitution that say we are not going to have slavery anymore. Specifically, if you look at the language, it's pretty nice. Our Constitution says in the 13th Amendment that there is no involuntary servitude. If you provide a service for someone, you get paid for that service. You get the buckaroos, you get some money. All right. Obviously, back in these times, these people did not get paid. Bad things happened to them. It was a bad time in our history. As we go through the course, we're going to talk about slavery and what those poor people endured. I'm glad that it's over. All right. 14th Amendment. Well, it kind of happened right after the 13th Amendment. If these people aren't slaves, there was, by the way, about 4 million of them in the country at this time. What are they? So the 14th Amendment said, okay, slavery is illegal. So in 1868, we said those people are now what? They are citizens. And we're going to treat citizens equally in this country. So those citizens, those former slaves, get two things. They get due process, and they also get equal protection under the laws. Right? 15th Amendment, nice and easy, says that all African American men can vote. So by 1870, who was now able to vote legally? African American men. You guessed it. Guess who's still left out? Women. We're going to have to fix that. All right. The 16th Amendment. Notice, I didn't write the term 16 here. I didn't write the number. I wrote it out. 16th Amendment, 1913. Guess what? Our government can take a tax on our incomes. Well, how are you going to remember that? 16. There's an X in 16. There's an X in tax. So 16th Amendment is the income tax. 17th Amendment. If you say it like that, you remember it. 17th Amendment is the direct election of senators. Back before 1913, We, the citizens of America, did not vote for our senators. We voted for people to work in our state governments, and those people in the state legislatures picked the senators. Today, because of this amendment, our vote goes directly to the senator. And you should know that each state has 2 of these, right? Senators serve 6 terms. Senators serve 6 years. They have 6-year terms, and there's 2 per state. Today, because of that amendment, we directly vote for them. 18th Amendment, no booze. 1919, it was just called prohibition. It said you cannot manufacture, you cannot sell, you can't transport, you can't drink it. Alcohol is illegal in this country. And here's a nice picture where you got some federal agents, and what are they doing? They're dumping beer into the sewer. That's right, can't have it. Alcohol in this country was illegal during the 1920s. If you watch any kind of video or you look at the Roaring 20s, everyone was drinking anyways, but realize they were all breaking the 18th Amendment. They may have been drinking, but they were drinking illegally. Okay? 19th Amendment, finally. Women have been fighting for the right to vote for a very long time. In 1920, our federal government said we're going to add an amendment that says all women can vote. So the 19th Amendment is voting rights for all women. 20th, pretty easy. They just changed the dates. So 1933, they changed the dates for congressional and presidential terms to start. All right, so that just kind of says when the president and Congress get to start. So it's kind of a small one, but it's all right. 21st Amendment, real easy, 1933. From 1919, they said booze was illegal. In 1933, they said go ahead and do it. We're just going to tax it. So the term that you want to know, the vocab term, is repeals. Repeal is to take away. So what was repealed because of the 21st Amendment? What was repealed was the 18th Amendment. The 18th Amendment said you can't drink. The 21st Amendment said you can. Well, what's the easy way you're going to remember that? In New York State, 18 years old, it is illegal to drink. 21 years old, legally you may purchase alcoholic beverages. I hope that you do that responsibly. Okay. 22nd Amendment. Remember the 22nd Amendment. In the 1930s and 40s, Franklin Delano Roosevelt served 4 terms. He died in his 4th term. The man almost served 13. He almost served 16, but he ended up serving about 13 years. So what did the 22nd Amendment do? It limited the presidency to 2 terms. So 22, 2, 2, 2, 2. If you remember the 2s, you'll remember that that's 2 terms. All right. 23rd Amendment, remember the 3. Each state has a certain amount of electoral votes. They're listed on the map here. Well, in Washington, D.C., where it is, there it is, there's Delaware. D.C. is going to be in there. There it is. D.C. gets what? They said, you know what? We should give these people a say in who the president is. So the District of Columbia gains 3 votes because of the 23rd Amendment. 3 votes, 23rd. Put that together, you'll remember it, right? 24th Amendment. Down south, what they used to do to the newly freed men, or the black men who were attempting to vote, is they would charge them a poll tax. Well, our federal government created an amendment to the Constitution that says, you know what? You don't have to pay a poll tax before you vote. So all these people want to vote, but they can't. You know why? Because they don't have the money to pay the poll tax. So this was a barrier to voting. It did not allow people, certain people, only the rich people could pay the tax, so only the rich people were voting. Well, if you get rid of that, all these people can now vote. All right, so 24th Amendment says we are not going to have a poll tax. All right. 25th Amendment set the procedure for determining the presidential disability and succession. Congress makes the decision. If the president can't be the president anymore, there is a rule, there's a list. Who's the list? Well, if the president can't be the president, it is the vice president. Then it would be the Speaker of the House. Then it would be the leader of the Senate. Then it was the cabinet positions in the order they were created. And the last cabinet position created, the 15th cabinet, the Homeland Security, happened after September 11th, right? 26, 2 more. The voting age to 18. Voting age used to be 21. And if you don't know what was going on in the 60s and 70s, people were fighting in the Vietnam War. They were drafted. 18-year-old dudes had to go and fight. Well, there's this thought in the country that if you can fight for your country, you should be able to vote for the commander-in-chief. So in 1971, no state can say you got to be 21 years old. The federal standard is what? 18 years old. And then the 27th Amendment, the last one, simply says that Congress can't give themselves a raise in the middle of a congressional term. So those are the amendments. Hopefully you're aware of them, or you want to come back to the video. I know hopefully you've written them all down. You got them. Some are more important than others, and as we go through our history, you're going to see them again, especially the important ones. So good luck with the amendments, and we'll see you soon.